tying up another Carrie Stevens streamer today from the Hilliard book. This is called The Red Streak. You can kind of see where it gets its name and everything with all the red in it. The body is a red floss with a silver tinsel, red tail, red throat. There's a red chicken breast feather in the shoulder here and a little bit of red bucktail in the wing, which is interesting. It has an orange band in the head here. I'm not certain why that's not red, considering it's all red otherwise, but there again, I don't know. I don't think many people know why she chose the colors that she chose to put in the bands, but so that is the Red Streak. Straightforward little featherwing streamer, fun to tie. I'll get busy tying. I'm going to start the Red Streak with my hook on the vise. This is a Partridge CS15 in a size 4. I'm going to debarb the hook. I'm going to attach my thread. Because there is a red floss body on this, I'm going to start with a white thread. This is a Danville 3/0 mono in white. I'm going to lay down a base layer of thread here, and then there is a tag on this of silver tinsel, tail of red hackle fibers, and then a red floss body with a silver tinsel rib. I'm down at the end of the body section here, and I'm going to tie in the tinsel for the tag. This is, the label fell off there, but this is a Danville silver and gold Mylar tinsel in a size 10. I'm going to tie that with the gold side up. Really, for just the tag on this, you don't need a whole lot, but I will have enough left over here that I can use that in as the rib. Wind my thread down to just past the point of the hook, and then back forward. Then I'm going to invert the hook because it makes it just a little bit easier to wrap this tag in. I'm going to secure that in with a few wraps and trim away the excess here. And as I said, there is a tail on this of red hackle, so I'm going to use a little bit of red schlappen here. I'm also using some red schlappen for the throat on this. I'm just going to get a nice clump of red hackles here that are fairly long. I just want them to go maybe 1/4 of an inch, eighth of an inch to maybe 3/16 of an inch past the bend of the hook, just a little bit. Wrap those down. Tie that tinsel back in for my rib. I'll tie this in with the gold side out so that it'll flip over to the silver side. And then I'll tie in the red floss for the body. I'm using a Danville 4-strand rayon in red for this. I'm going to use all 4 strands. Doesn't have to be super long, but you don't want to run out of floss on the body on this in the middle of it. I anchor that down in, a little bit of wax on my thread. It's going to help to bind all that down into or onto the hook shank as I move forward. I used that tinsel there as well as the floss to give me a little bit of a smooth transition from the larger diameter with the hackles in to the smaller diameter of the hook shank. It's inevitable. You could do some things in terms of if you wanted to mitigate any kind of bump back there at all, you could run your thread all the way up and back down in such a way as to bulk up the hook shank a little bit for that floss so you would not have any kind of a bump back there, but I don't find it's worth it, especially if it's a fishing fly. But even if it's a mounted fly, I don't find it really worth it. Matter of fact, I might even change to a different red hackle material, say a hen saddle, or even like a rooster cock feather, tail feather, or something like that. That would have much longer barbs so that you could tie that up in here and have more of a transition up further up the body. So I'm now going to apply the red floss and then the tinsel for the rib. So with that rib tied in, I'll secure it in the headspace here, move my thread back down to the end of the body here, just right off of the eye return here. This is where I'm going to tie in the belly. The belly is just some white bucktail. I've already gone ahead and stacked a little clump of this. You don't have to stack it if you don't want to. I just find for the videos, I think it looks a little bit cleaner. If I'm tying this for mostly just a fishing fly, I generally don't stack it. It still gets the job done. It just looks a little bit nicer with it stacked there. With that all cleaned out, I'm going to tie that in so that it is just a little bit past the bend of the hook. These are barely long enough to do that. Trim away the excess here. Clean this up just a little bit. I had some short ends there. And I have a few I know that are too short. one or two that will come out of there. Now I'll tie in the throat, and the throat, as I mentioned, is just some red hackle. I'm using some red schlop in here for this. I'm going to tie one straight on the bottom. I want it to go about halfway down the belly. Advance my thread forward a little bit. Now I'm going to tie in two clumps, same length, but they're going to be not on top of, or I should say right on the bottom of the hook shank, but more off to my side. What I want to do is I want to use those to cover up some of these white thread wraps. This is something I'm still researching and trying to get a handle on, just how she does this in terms of where these are placed and why I'm covering all of that up. So bear with me, but some of my videos, I have them all tied in the same place. I have one here in the middle and one kind of on each side at an angle. I've recently reread some literature, and I think this is the way that she was doing it, but I'm not 100% certain. The idea is to, again, cover up some of these thread wraps here so that they're not exposed. The wing will hopefully come down and cover up that on the sides, but you won't have any down on the bottom exposed. With that complete, I'm going to attach my orange thread. The head on the red streak is black with an orange band. Not certain why she didn't do a red band on this, because it is a red streak. And that is her prerogative. I don't know what the rationale was, or even if anybody knows the rationale for why she used a red band, an orange band, green band, or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to attach the orange thread now because I find that it's better to put a nice base of orange underneath and then put my two black bands on. Bringing my thread down to more or less where the back end of the throat is, I will then tie in the wing. First part of the wing on the red streak is, the recipe calls for Lady Amherst Crest, which is a red crest, kind of like a golden pheasant crest. If you look at a golden pheasant crest, it's a nice yellow golden color like this. Well, the Lady Amherst is a red color, so if you can imagine this being red, that's what you would tie in up here for that. But I don't have any, and fortunately, the recipe says you can substitute bucktail. So I'm going to take a little bit of red bucktail here that I have. I've already cleaned this a little bit. There's a few others I want to get out of here. And this is fairly sparse. I'm not putting this in to really kind of bulk anything up. It's just the coloring underneath. And I'm going to make this about as long as the belly. So this is kind of like on a lot of her recipes where she calls for some peacock herl as the first part of the wing. This would be the same thing. I'm going to secure that in, cleaning this up just a little bit, making certain I have that wrapped in and a nice platform for the wing. The rest of the wing on the red streak is two white hackles. For the wing portion, the shoulder is a chicken breast feather dyed red, and then there's a cheek of jungle cock. Don't know why on this one she says a chicken breast feather dyed red. There's some other recipe she has that it calls for a duck breast feather dyed red. I don't know why, what the difference was that she preferred in some patterns the duck versus the chicken. Don't know that we'll ever know. So I've got my two wings trimmed up, and I'm going to tie those in. I'm going to moisten down the red bucktail a little bit just to smooth that off. Get my wing placed up in here. And then I'll attach the other wing on the other side. A few wraps just to secure those in. Take a look. They seem to be in okay. Now I'm going to brace this and wrap backwards just a little bit. And then clean this up. I've just gone back and forth here a few times to shape the head here and to cover up any butt ends and dark spots and whatnot. Now you'll notice underside here I've got a little bit of the orange thread showing past the head here. I don't want to wrap further down on those wings. That's telling me that what I probably should have done is brought the throat a little further far forward, maybe right to about here, and tied those in so that all of the head space here resulting would cover that up. Put a little wax on my thread. It'll help this from popping out from underneath. When I do the whip finish, I want to secure the orange thread here. With the orange thread secured, I will now attach the black. I'm using a Danville 70 Denier in black. I don't know that I mentioned I'm using this is an 8/0, a uni thread 8/0 in a pumpkin is the orange that I use there. I'm simply going to attach this in the back, and I'm going to divide the head into 3 sections, equal width for the black bands and the orange band. At least that's the attempt that is going to be made. So with the front band in, I'll put a little more wax on my thread. Secure that with a whip finish. Put a little bit of head cement on here. This is some Fly Tight. It is a alcohol-based head cement that's thin. We'll soak down in those thread wraps and secure that. Then I'll come back and put a couple layers of a clear lacquer on there, and that will complete the red streak. Fun and interesting fly. A lot of similar components of other flies that she's done, but that's the first that I've seen with the Lady Amherst Crest in the wing portion. So there's the red streak. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.